Here we are. I am Gemma Honour and I am the Doodle Witch. And I decided that I wanted to do this talk because I had a question that I couldn't figure out. And that may have not been the best reason to do a talk, but actually, let's see how it works out for me. So I started sketchnoting a few years ago, and it was I really kind of got into it proper at the Agile on the Beach events. So that's a conference, which many of you probably know, and maybe we've seen each other there. And and I got right into it. I sketchnoted every single talk that I went to. And I found something phenomenal. I just found that I remembered everything. It felt like I remembered so much more from actually having gone through that. So that's how I kind of got into sketchnoting, and I've been in Agile a lot longer than that. So my question was, I noticed that there were like more and more people getting involved in visual thinking or graphic facilitation, and who were kind of in the Agile space. And so that's the question that I've been bringing, that I wanted to bring. It's like, why is this happening? So I'm going to screen share with you. So if you're not able to access via the Miro, that's fine. You can you should just be able to follow along, and I'll be kind of playing on my iPad. So that's going to start here. What I'd like you to do is, if you haven't already, pop your any kind of job title that you've got into that check-in area. I'm going to be kind of talking through some things. If you know something that I don't cover, so if there's some research or something that I don't cover, what I'd really like for you to do is for you to pop that research or that information in as a post-it note alongside, and then we'll have some time at the end just to sort of discuss any information that you're kind of bringing into this area, because I know we've got expert sketchnoters in the room and we've got expert Agile people in the room, so I really don't want to kind of miss out on any of that level of expertise. So that was the question. The question is, what has Agile got to do with it? And in particular, doodling. So there's a few trends in the kind of visual thinking area which you may be aware of and you may have noticed. I'm just going to cover them briefly just in case you haven't, you're not aware of what they are. So there's sketchnoting, which is what I did all that time ago on the conference, which is essentially making notes and making notes for yourself that use pictures and words, and they're kind of like a memory aid for yourself. Then there's graphic recording, which is when somebody kindly comes along and listens to your talk and then records that almost in a sketchnoty way to then be shared with everybody. And so anybody sort of familiar with my with the work I do, I often graphic record when I'm listening to the talks that we're doing in Agile Bath and Bristol. There's also visual facilitation, and that is really kind of more of a cooperative thing around sort of allowing people to kind of just get involved and using visuals for people to kind of interact with. So the question really is, though, what does Agile have to do with any of those things? So I thought the best way to kind of look at the question would be to start with the manifesto. So we've got people and interactions over process and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and adapting to change over following a plan. Now, I figured if we could work out how any of the things that I've just talked about in terms of the visual thinking stuff linked into this, would be in a position to maybe answer that question. So that's sort of really where I started in terms of trying to work out what it was, what the problem is that we're trying to solve. To do it, I kind of want to take you through a little bit of the science, the brain science behind visual thinking. And so I bring you a brain and some eyeballs. And this is because we're going to get very technical, and I need to make sure that I've got like the most up-to-date diagrams to show you. So the brain science of how does visual thinking work for us? Well, studies have found, and we've got links to these studies in the post-it notes at the side, that if you're presented with a visual, so a picture of something, or whether that be a photograph or an illustration, you've got a much higher chance of memorizing that than if you were just provided with either an audio cue or a word. So if you kind of look into those studies, you'll find that it can differ by as much as 90% recall for where there's a visual involved, and it reduces down massively to maybe only 50% where somebody is talking like I am now. Now, there's a bit more brain science behind why that is. So I'm going to sort of take you again through a very technical diagram of the brain, where we're seeing the visual bit linking up with the emotional bit. And yeah, there we go. And again, so this is essentially the scientists that kind of that took us through this showed us that when they put some people in front of a sad film, and then whilst they were in an MRI scanner, when the eyes were registering that they were seeing something sad, the emotional bit lit up, and they were seeing some kind of pathways there. So essentially, what's that's saying is that you can kind of have a visual trigger and it can make you feel emotional. Now that really it doesn't seem like that should be that exciting news. However, that's what makes that visual important, and the salience or the importance of that information that you're seeing as a visual, then it becomes more likely to be remembered because of the fact that there's that emotional link there. What's also interesting is that if you actually doodle the information, again, so if you're writing the information, you're also massively more likely to remember it. And that's because your brain is having to kind of go through some different, the information is having to go through many more bits of your brain. So it's going through the visual bit of the brain, the emotional bit of the brain, but also the motor bit of the brain, which is actually having to kind of do the hard work of copying stuff out. So that's that bit. So I want to take you now into this idea of dual coding. So dual coding is where we take a visual and we take a word. Now, the science behind this is that even we were great at remembering visual objects, we become even better at remembering when we combine that visual object with a word. But not only that, that visual object and the words, we know that it's going to have some kind of effect on our emotional state. So for example, here I've got like a cup, it's just a cup, and with the word bedtime, so it's combined with the word bedtime. So it might make us feel sleepy or cozy. It might make us think about cocoa or something, something lovely like that. But what it's doing is it's conveying a concept. So that word is conveying more than just the word bedtime. It's conveying a feeling and a concept. And just to show you, we take the same symbol and we change the word to morning, and it's a completely different experience. Again, yep, Tracy and Andre, you take that with you. You can have that one, because then under that, we've also got the word hot. Which again, just as an example of taking a symbol and the word, all of a sudden the meaning behind that symbol is now changing. And that's like some reasonable drawing skills, I guess, to draw that cup. Like not brilliant drawing skills, but some reasonable drawing skills. I wanted to show you how you could simplify it even further and still have that dual coding effect. So to do that, here we go. We've got the word hot here. And as you can see, all I've got here are some really very, very simple squiggly lines and the word hot and a little bit of colour. So it's yeah, simplified even again. And I just kind of wanted to show you that, to show that actually dual coding, although it's a picture and a word, that picture doesn't have to be particularly complicated. So here we go. Oh, there we go. So what I wanted to do is to sort of teach you the basics of dual coding. It's got practice along here. You don't have to practice along because I'm going to give you a chance to practice a little bit later, unless you see something here that you really you do want to kind of practice, so you can practice on your notebooks. So what I wanted to do is first of all show you, when we're doing some of this dual coding stuff, we can first play around with the type of lettering that we use. So for example, we can use caps to maybe convey shouting, or lowercase to convey talking in a normal tone, tall maybe to convey being stretched or reaching for something, tiny to convey being shy, and then some punctuation. So for example, if you wanted to like use some exclamation points to make your point, or you could use an ellipsis to kind of maybe make yourself sound a bit mysterious. Or you could use joined up writing to maybe just sound a bit fancy, or maybe fluid, or whatever it is that you're kind of trying to convey. So I just wanted to kind of share with you a couple of like very basic lettering tips, so you're not like feeling a bit like overwhelmed, like you need to know how to do fonts. You don't. It's very simple. The other thing, the other thing we're going to do this basics of dual coding is that we're going to use some shapes. Now, I know that we've got some we've got some experienced sketch noters in the room. We've got some people who are really good at drawing. I wanted to kind of prove that you don't need to do those things. So all you actually need are these basic shapes to get dual coding. So the dual coding that you saw just now with the word hot was just a word with a few squiggly lines. And those squiggly lines were used to indicate heat. So I've also got like a circle here. So a circle, and it's totally up to you what you want these words to mean, what you want these shapes to mean to you. So a circle could maybe mean wholeness, for example, or a square could mean boundaries, or it could be stability, and a triangle could be like a warning. And then you've got some kind of container shapes as well, like the cloud, which could be maybe lightness. Everybody knows what lines and arrows mean, like that way or stop. And the starburst could mean excitedness or chaos. So I'm now going to give you a chance to practice doing this yourself. So it's now your turn. So we're going to break up everybody into 3 groups. So if your second name begins with the letter A to G, you are going to be writing a dual coded thing for an excited shriek. If your surname begins from H to M, you are going to be writing a dual coded thing for gentle whisper. And if it's N to Z, you're going to be writing a bit flat. And you're going to be doing this using some of the lettering techniques that we've just discussed, and only, this is really important, only the shapes that we've just discussed here. So what I would like to do is, first of all, if you're in group A to G, if you just pop up your hands now, so that means your surname begins anywhere with the letters between A and G. That's great. Anybody who is H to M, so your surname is H to M. Looking for Ewan's hand going up there. Yes, brilliant. And anybody who's in group 3, which is a bit flat, which is N to Z, if you put your hand up now. And what I'm going to do is just give you 1 minute to grab your pens and paper and write that word using the lettering techniques that we just discussed, and only the shapes that we discussed. And I'm going to stop sharing because I really want to see what you guys come up with. So 1 minute starts now. Oh, we got a person in the waiting room. Let's let them in. They won't know what's going on. I just got on. Oh, and I've got Rob asked a question. Looks like you're a good artist, Gemma. What if you're not? This is proof. You actually don't have to be a good artist. You just need to draw these shapes. Okay, so last 10 seconds. Okay, right, what I would like you to do now is, if you could, I'd like for everybody, when they present their picture, what I'd really like for you to do is to unmute at the same time so that you can share and say it in the either excited shriek, gentle whisper, or a bit flat voice. So what I'd like you to do is hold your picture up to the camera. So you will need your camera on for this bit. Unmute yourself and then either say excited shriek, for example, or potentially the creepiest gentle whisper that we've ever heard. So be brave. First of all, everybody in group A to G. So everybody in group number 1, excited shriek, please.
Excited shriek.
Excited shriek.
Oh,
excited shriek. I don't know if I can see.
Yeah, so we're seeing some Starbucks here. Oh yeah, we're seeing some, yeah, brilliant. And Richard, I really like what you've done there, where you've kind of made the word itself triangular. That's fantastic. Stuart. Yeah, it's a brilliant starburst action there. Fantastic. Louis, I'm loving it. Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you, guys. Good stuff. So we've now got anybody who is doing gentle whisper, please unmute now and gently whisper to us with your picture, please.
Gentle whisper. Gentle whisper.
That is as creepy as I hoped it would be. Ewan, that's lovely. Look how Ewan has done just a squiggly line and some ellipsis. Does anyone notice that? That's really nice. Well done. Who else has got David Legg? Can I see your gentle whisper, please?
I'm trying.
It's all. Have you got a beauty filter on it? Something. Ah, there we go. There it is. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So using small letters. That's really nice. Anybody else with a gentle whisper? Oh,
gentle whisper.
Steve there has used that lovely cloud to suggest, but he's put a big shh across it because he knows we've got to be quiet. Thank you. Okay, and now finally for those who are a bit flat, please present and unmute.
Bit flat.
A bit flat.
A bit flat. Okay, oh yeah, that's
That's a bit flat as well.
That is quite flat, a bit flat. Oh, Kerry, yeah. Kerry's a bit flat. She's also got, I mean, she's heavy and flat. She's got a big heavy thing on her. Oh, Ibrahim, yeah, brilliant use of lines and boxes there to show a bit flat. Ruth, let's have a look. Yeah, and I'm liking the use of the arrows there to show actually that kind of pressure that's kind of pushing down and being a bit flat. And Andy, yeah, Andrea, that's, yeah, like really nice flat lettering there to show that you're just feeling a bit flat. And Bruce, oh yeah, you're like a bit flat in the sea. You're kind of out to sea there. I'm liking that, Bruce. And Joe, let's see a bit flat. Oh yeah, with some circles, just to a bit flat. That's how I'm reading that. Is that right, Joe?
Yeah, it's kind of I would have done a bicycle tire, I think. I've got a bit of a flat at the moment, actually, but that's
That'd be perfect.
another story.
Cool. All right, thank you very much there, guys. So that is your very first bit of dual coding. So what I want us to do now is we're going to go back to the Miro for our first interactive bit. So what I want you to do is just stick a post-it note down to reflect on overall so far out of the stuff that we've just talked about. What have we learned? And what did you notice about the practice that you've just done? So you might need to go and drag some post-it notes on to do that. And I will go back to screen sharing so that those who aren't following along on the Miro can at least see what's going on in the rest from my view. So bear with me one moment whilst I do that. Cool, and hopefully, yeah, we're back. Is everybody able to drag post-it notes on? Yeah, should be able to. So what we've learned so far, if you just let me know like one thing that you've learned so far out of the stuff that I've talked about, and what did you notice about that dual coding practice? Yeah, so it doesn't have to be elaborate. Excellent, yeah. Simple shapes can be effective. Yeah, they can be. Less is more, yeah. There's an emotional bit and a visual bit linked together in the brain. Yes, good news. Oh, look, I haven't managed to lock this one down. Always one. Here we go, I'll lock it down. Or I'll try. Yeah, there we go, it's locked. Cool. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so the visual, emotional, motor, and having all of those things being engaged is good. Oh, somebody said it was actually pretty easy. No, that's the best thing that I could hear, because it is actually pretty easy. Yeah, brilliant. Good, somebody learned that they can draw a square. I'm pleased for you. That's good. And yeah, you do actually have to think hard about what you're trying to communicate. And that is a really cool, yeah, that's a really cool observation. Is there anybody who wants to unmute and just sort of share anything before we sort of move on to the next bit? Anybody with some learning tips that they want to share? And do bear in mind, if there are any, I know there are experts in the room, for those experts in the room, if there's anything that we could have covered, or I could have covered, that I haven't covered, I'm wanting to know it. So do feel free to just capture it in a post-it note next to the slide that you think is appropriate. But yeah, we're getting like lots and lots of say what you see. Yeah, see what you see, indeed. Yeah, and actually, people were able to convey, most people understood most people's pictures. I think I understood everybody's pictures, but yeah, somebody here understood most people's pictures, even though it was, yeah, they were very, very simply done. Cool, let's move on to the next bit then. So we've now covered the basics in terms of how to articulate an idea that you hear into some simple shapes. And we can emphasize that by using 1 or 2 key words. And then I also thought if anybody really wants to draw people, you don't just have to draw those shapes that I did. You can also draw the people, and they're really easy. They're just these kind of, I'll show you on the board how we do this. So it's just an N shape essentially with a couple of circles on top. So yeah, that's hopefully nice and easy for everybody to be able to copy. Right, I can now see that my, there we go, let's unlock this one, bear with me. So we're on to the next activity here, which is we are now going to go out into some breakout rooms and really practice what we've just learned. So we've just worked out how to do this kind of dual coding thing by just taking 2 words that I've given you. But what you're going to do is you're going to be broken up into pairs and you're going to be in breakout rooms. When you are in those pairs, one of you, person 1, is going to talk about, for about 3 minutes, a concept that they've either read recently or they've learnt, or something that they've learnt recently. If that's giving you a complete memory, like blank, that's absolutely fine. Maybe just describe an organization that you've worked for, and hopefully we'll kind of you'll be kind of in a good position to be able to do that. Whilst that's happening, so whilst you're talking, the other person is going to be using just the shapes that we discussed to make a note of what it is that you're talking about. And you're going to sort of see how this is. I'm not going to give you kind of too much direction around what it is, but you're going to listen and you're going to try and convey what you're hearing into shapes. And you can, again, use 1 or 2 keywords using the kind of lettering that we discussed to kind of emphasize that. After the 3 minutes of somebody chatting it through, you're then going to have 1 minute for that to get played back. So the person is going to show you their picture and say, well, this is what I heard you tell me, and this is represented by this square or this circle or this starburst or these arrows. And then you're going to swap. So it's going to be 4 minutes each in total. And then you swap over. So the other person will then talk about a concept that they've read or learnt, or an organisation that they work for, and then the second person will doodle. So are there any questions about that exercise before I send you off into the breakout groups? Any questions? If anybody ends up being in a room, and there's nobody else in that room, just come back into the main room, okay? And we'll run the activity in the main room with you, okay? So you're all going to be going out now. You're going to be in there for, oh, we got Richard Salter has raised his hand. Richard Salter, are you okay? Did you have a question? I'm going to assume he didn't mean to have his hand raised in that case.
Sorry, that was from before. No question.
Okay, brilliant. All right, we're going to go into the breakout rooms. You're going to have 10 minutes to do the exercise, and then I'm going to pull you back out. All right, see you in a minute. Okay.
Hi, Ewan. sorry, I can't hear.
I was muted. I'm also just looking. I'm the person who's recording the whole meeting
Oh, yeah.
this evening, and I'm just having a look, and it does look like. Wait, hang on a second.
How did it go?
We only good. We had time for just one round.
Oh no. Okay.
But I wasn't keeping track of time though, so maybe we were very slow.
Me neither. I think that was partly the problem, and I think there were a number of groups of 3 as well. But yeah, I wasn't keeping track of time because I was there were like a lot of people that didn't manage to get into rooms, and so I was fixing that, and then I wasn't doing the timing. So yeah, sorry.
We completed a round though, so.
Sorry if anybody didn't get long enough. I will just. How was it? How was it, guys?
That was fun.
That was fun.
Did you get long enough in there? Yeah, good. I saw there were a lot of groups of 3 people, which I wasn't expecting. So I'm like hoping that everybody got a chance to either like listen or draw or do some of the activity, and you didn't get too kind of too phased by it all. So first of all, were there any kind of observations that anybody wanted to sort of like share now? We're kind of
some words are more difficult than others.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got intent.
Intense. Okay.
So how like I was trying to sitting there, it's like, how do I depict intent?
Oh, how
and for some reason, yeah, I magnifying glass. Well, was it intention, location, and detail?
Oh, beautiful. Yes. Yeah.
But now that I said it out loud, it's like I should have drawn someone in a tent.
Yes, definitely. Oh, Andy, you didn't have time to swap. That's what I was worried about, and it was because I was faffing around with meeting rooms. Yeah, and I needed an egg timer, Charles-Louis. Thank you. Yes, you are right. Okay. It's good to hear your voices, but we will. For those who just a bit happier sharing via text, we'll go back over to the Miro. So I want you to reflect on, bring your post-it notes in, what was different about listening and doodling. And also, if you managed to get into the position where you were seeing your doodle, your words back as a doodle, what was different about that? Oh, and Charles-Louis, you're sharing information on where to get the timers. Tink and stink. Okay. So yeah, let's hear what was different about listening and doodling for you, and what was different about seeing your words back as a doodle.
I'm going to comment on the seeing my words back as a doodle, because we were in a room of 3, so that was great, because I got to see Steve and Ellen's visuals of what I told, and it's all about the details that they put into the picture. At some point I talked about the feeling like even in this remote world we felt like being around a campfire, and then there was this drawing of the campfire with these screens around it, and it was really so lovely and so powerful with just these simple shapes that yeah.
It is, yeah, there's definitely, and I think that's the emotional like resonance of it, is suddenly when you see your words played back to you, even as very, very simple shapes, it can really have an emotional impact. This is it, yeah. So we're also seeing like a lot of things coming in here. Somebody saying, I had a better understanding of what they were saying. Oh, now this was the thing for me. I've suddenly found that I got a deeper understanding of what was being said, and when I got into sketchnoting, and I genuinely wasn't expecting that. I thought I'd just be hearing things and maybe remembering them, which is what we kind of learned. Oh, remember things better. But it changes the shape of the way that that information goes into your brain. So I think I'm hoping that some of you managed to kind of actually experience that. Somebody here has written actively listening. Yes, absolutely. It is. It's so valuable as a way of actively listening. Oh, to be honest, felt a bit disrespectful that the talker is staring at your forehead. This is a really good point, actually. It's a super good point, and I was thinking a way that I might want to do it in future is to say have your cameras off when you're doing the talking phase and doodling phase, and then put them back on when you present back, to see if it impacts the way that that you collaborate. Because you're right, it might be it might well be awkward when you're kind of talking to somebody who looks like they're ignoring you.
Yeah, this is the thing. It looks like they're doing something else. I mean, unless it's a case of, hey, I'm going to do a talk, feel free to make notes, then that it's kind of been said, it's been acknowledged that I will be staring at your forehead. Otherwise, you're kind of...
Yeah, I've done that when I've done interviews and stuff like that, saying I'm actively writing some notes down because I want to make sure I'm capturing things. So if I'm not looking you in the eye every 5 seconds, don't panic. It's just because I want to. So you can open it, but that's a really good point.
It might be different when we get back to in real life.
Yeah, especially if I wash my hair in the morning. Yeah, it might be embarrassing.
My roots. Don't look at my roots.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm seeing quite a lot of stuff here about really careful listening. A lot of people saying that it's like more difficult listening that way, and I totally agree. It's kind of exhausting listening that way because you are having to listen so hard for the details, because you're going to be trying to turn it into a concept and then put it down on paper, and that is the skill. It's not necessarily the drawing, but it's that conceptualization, and then trying to work out how you're going to interpret that and put that down onto a piece of paper. So yeah, people having to like finding it hard, finding it tricky, having to listen really carefully. And I totally agree with all of those points. So moving on to what was different about seeing your words back as a doodle. What we're seeing here, that you can interpret simple pictures in your own terms. Yeah. Oh, and somebody had an excellent simplification of what they were told. It was really easy to understand quickly. Somebody saying that they could have described it more clearly, and that they could see where people were following or lost. So yeah, you're definitely seeing somebody else's understanding. But what I also think is really interesting is what happens when you see a picture back which wasn't the picture that you had in your mind. Actually, you can understand it differently. And that is a fascinating thing. So yeah, fantastic to see the different ways that people represented what I told them. Yeah, exactly. And then we've got here, you realise that the message that you conveyed was not what you meant. Exactly. Or maybe they're just pulling out information that wasn't there before. Tony, sorry, did you raise your hand? Oh no, she gone. Tony gone. Okay, but yeah, I thought that was a really great point. Cool. Okay, so back to the original question. What does Agile have to do with this? And now you've had an experience of how it is to actually do this visual thinking. What I want you to do is to put your post-it notes over this image that we've got here, which I've just realised I'm not doing the screen share anymore, but in what way might the skills that you've just practiced help overlaid over the Agile manifesto? So how might it help you work with people in interactions over process and tools? How might it help in getting to working software over comprehensive documentation? Here we go. how might it help customer collaboration over contract negotiation, adapting to change over following a plan? So I'd be really interested to see your thoughts in terms of how the skills that we've just discussed here, in terms of listening and seeing your ideas back, how does that help in terms of agility? Oh, and yes, Rob, I will share my screen. Apologies. Share. Makes it a nicer experience for everybody. So hopefully you can see that. Cool. Yeah, so here we're saying people and interactions over processes and tools. Exactly. We're listening to each other. We're actually making sure that we are listening to each other and we're engaging each other. And there we got, yeah, it can aid constructive communication and encouraging shared understanding. It's just a brilliant collaborative tool. So yeah, somebody here has put capturing ideas and brainstorming improves communication. It's just an aid to making sure that that is happening beautifully. In terms of working software, over comprehensive documentation, rapid prototyping. Yes, exactly. I mean, my favorite, like guerrilla testing, has just been going out with a notepad and a Sharpie and getting user feedback in terms of like what something should look like and where things would go. Pictures are more memorable than documents, exactly. And simple diagrams might be all you need. Yeah, so this is the bit of over comprehensive documentation, is focusing documentation on meaning over having lots of documentation for the sake of it. So yeah, totally agree with like all of these points. PDFing instead of writing up meeting notes, yeah, and encourages a minimum viable process. That is lovely. Who wrote that? That's beautiful.
That was me.
Oh, is it David?
Yeah.
Of course it is.
I've got a whole talk on minimal viable process, but never mind.
I love it. What can you just explain what you mean by that? Because it sounds like
well, just asking yourself, is every bit of your process giving you some value? You know, having the right balance of the meetings you do need, but not let them run on. So time boxing and all of this.
Yeah, that's it. Brilliant. Yeah, customer collaboration. We've got some stuff around clarifying needs, being flexible with what is said and sharing understanding with your customer. Absolutely. And then adapting to change, co-creating a picture so we can revisit it together. Yes, that's exactly it. It brings everybody together on that same journey and it makes it fun. Exactly. So finally, before we before we break up, what I wanted to do is just go back up to the Agile roles in the room. And if you can visit a role, either your role or somebody else's role, and let that role know how they could, in reality, use what we've learned today. So what kind of activity might a Scrum Master or an Agile coach or a business analyst, how could they in reality use what we've learned today to in their day-to-day role, and that would be great. And we'll hopefully start to see an organizational designer. Who's the organizational designer? That sounds a good job. Maybe they left. A soon-to-be Scrum Master. Oh, Kerry, thank you. You're doing some lovely grouping of the different roles. Yes, very good. Carry on with pictures. Exactly. So yeah, for example, how might a QA or a Scrum Master or an Agile coach use what? Some of the skills today. And whilst you're having a think about that, I'm going to just summarise. So what we've learned today really is we've learned a little bit about dual coding. So that is the practice of just putting together some very simple images, and the simpler the better, and some words. And those are the most important aspects of visual thinking. There's like absolutely loads more to it, and lots of practices that you can do to kind of build out more build out more pictures with more metaphors, get people kind of collaborating into your spaces better, and all of that you can find in various different ways. So I think there's a sketchnoting conference which is coming up that Marianne Rady runs, so do check out that. And I'm also going to be putting out some courses soon. So if you're interested in those, if you go over to my website, and there's a place where you can register interest for any courses. Other than that, I will just leave it to find out, are there any questions? And thank you.
No, none from me, but thank you very much. Brilliant. Thank you, Gemma.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Gemma. It's really useful.
Thank you.
It's been really quite fun.
Brilliant. That's good. Thank you, Al. That's brilliant. Yeah, I'm glad you had fun. Yeah, it is really good. Yeah, you can. And I'm seeing stuff coming out here. You can totally use it in retrospectives. Just list. The way that I used it was just asking people questions. So I was just chatting with the head of engineering, and as we were chatting, I was making visual notes, and then I was checking in with him. Oh, do you mean it like this? And so we were kind of drawing out a metaphor essentially, and he was like, yeah, it's not quite just like that, there's more holes in it over here. And it's that kind of discussion that actually just becomes really collaborative, and you can if you're confident enough, and I would urge you just to keep practicing so you do get confident enough. And it's not about having confidence in your drawing skills, but it's in the act of active listening and using that as a tool of kind of getting some feedback, which we're all about. Cool. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to stop the share. We're going to have I think we'll probably just have like a 10-minute comfort break. And then if anybody wants to come back, if we've got anybody who's kind of got some further information that they wanted to, that we didn't discuss in the talk that they want to share, we'll come back and kind of discuss that. Or if anybody's got any further questions, we'll just maybe go into some smaller groups and kind of go away and discuss that stuff. Okay, but yeah, that is the end of the session. And so yeah, I'll see you in 10 minutes for the social if you're coming back. Thank you.
Cheers, Gemma.
Thanks, Gemma.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Gemma.
In a bit.